Hello and welcome to the Famalam podcast. Happy New Year. We hope you had a great Christmas. And if you listen to the end of this episode, you will find out how to help start your new year with hope instead of just optimism, building it around the faith that we're seeking to build our family lives around in Jesus. That's what Famalam is all about. Trying to build our family lives around Jesus and his teachings. I'm here with Lizzy, of course, and Daisy in person. Woo-hoo! And we're joined by Jo Saxton. That's my oldest friend, Jo, and one of my dearest friends.
How old?
Many, many years.
No, how old? Come on.
I couldn't possibly
I want to say 32 years.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
so
I
mine's
think so.
about 26 years, isn't it, Jo, with you?
Yeah.
So yeah.
About 30. Yeah.
30.
Much.
You're old.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah,
We're
that's
the
that.
same age.
Jo, tell us a bit about you. You're on the other side of the world.
I am. I live in the States. Have lived in the States for 20 or so years now. Married with a couple of young adult kids who are fabulous. I, like you guys, wear lots of hats. So I work at a place called Bethel University where I'm the executive director of the Leadership Institute there. We're building leadership development things there. And then I speak and write and podcast and I eat carbs.
You eat carbs.
I do. I love them. I love fries. Yeah,
Fries.
I love
Fries
that that's
is-
the essential fact of the day.
Crisps and fries.
Yeah, it's
That's where
just
you
like
and Lizzy
gateway drug, man. It's not a good thing, but it's a wonderful thing.
Crisps is, I'm just bad.
It's like whatever size of the bag, I will consume it. So I just
I'm
have to
with
keep
you.
it small because if it's a big bag, I'm eating the
It's
bag.
dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Lizzy is exactly the same.
Okay, so Jo, you initiated years, I don't know, you can tell us how many years ago, but you initiated this process of practice of hellos and goodbyes. And so what we'd love for you to do is just tell us a little bit about it and how it started, because we do it because of you guys.
Yeah, I was trying to work out when it began, and I keep on. Every time I think, I started it in whatever year, someone from a previous era says, no, you forced me to do that too. So it's, so apparently, I think it was me and my sister, actually. And I think because in Nigerian cultures, there are lots of religions and stuff, people really do New Year. So I think we'd always come to the new year thinking of what we were going to do differently. And I think it was a bit like an audit at that time. It was highs and lows. And what was our high of the year and our low of the year? And then we'd start to think through, I don't know, how we'd want to do things differently and how we'd want to change things up. And so I think that was the kind of heartbeat behind it. And then as the years went on, I think I just found it a really helpful way to check in with the Lord and look back on the year and high. And so actually through our 20s, I was always doing a highs and lows of the year and I don't know whether I kind of articulated it as cleanly as hello and goodbye, just this has to stop and this has to start. Do you know what I mean? Normally revolving around a guy and normally revolving around a guy, habits, and hopes for holiness in some way. I think that it was, but and I think also the other thing that really influenced it is I grew up a Methodist. And so the Methodists had that covenant prayer and it was always, the way you'd begin the year was that prayer of I'm no longer my own but yours, put me to what you will, rank me with whom you will, and it goes on. But it was always a kind of resetting period. So I think, I love New Year's resolutions. I love all of that stuff. I will always love them. But I think it became a way of me inviting God in a fresh way and saying, okay, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to say goodbye to? And what do I need to say hello to? And it wasn't things I would achieve for him. Very rarely has it been things about I'd achieve for him, but it was a way of getting past my tunnel vision of what my expectations were and just making space and room for the way God wanted to move in my life. Because I'd also find, and again, I think particularly in our 20s, that God would be inviting me into things and I couldn't do it because I was holding on to something from before or holding on to an expectation or holding on to the past or holding on to a fear or anxiety or a person. And I needed to release it all to be able to move into the future. And so I realized even in journeying with God, I could say hello to as many things as I wanted to, but until I said goodbye to a few things, I wasn't really getting very far. There just wasn't enough room.
Yeah.
And it's just grown from there, really. The simplest thing and the and the kind of quietest thing, but has probably been one of the most revolutionary parts of my walk with.
I think that's a really helpful point, Jo, that New Year's resolutions are fine, but that's all about what we're hoping for or want to do. But I suppose it's that idea of, well, if you're going to say yes to something, you've got to say no to something. And I think what you're painting is a picture of repentance, I guess, right? Turning around, changing the direction, changing what it is you're trying to do. That involves wanting to live life slightly differently, but also, I guess, saying sorry for the things that we got wrong. We talked in the episode that we did about discipline, about how parents can model to their kids saying sorry. And that helps kind of create a circumstance within the family where sorry is an okay thing to say. So how do you think the new year allows us to model saying sorry? How can we share repentance, share gratitude with our kids, not just do it for ourselves? It sounds like it's an amazing practice you've done for you. How have you done it as a family? How can you model saying sorry to kids through this? And how can you model living with hope, but like a realistic hope, modeling repentance effectively?
Yeah. I mean, I think modeling sorry with kids is just something I like anyway, because I'm from a family context where the elders were never wrong. That is a real pain. It's a real pain. It's like, could we? No. Okay. Just checking. Wait, no. Oh, fine. All right. So I think for me, the beauty of it being part of the culture and New Year being part of the culture is everybody's doing it. And it makes it a bit more accessible. So like, it makes the idea of change a bit more accessible. So it actually gives you a really nice on-ramp. It gives you a bit of lead in. And so I think it helps me model sorry, because you get to look back on the year and say, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Because it's not as fresh in some ways, but it is still significant. It's still significant. So it gives you a chance to say, this is how I want to change. And also it can equate sorry with change, rather than sorry about how I left you feeling, or sorry, or sorry you feel that way, or all those other faux apologies that we can do. But it actually is like, this happened. This is where I was at. I really need to change, and I'm sorry for the impact it had on your life. And I think because everybody's thinking about change, it's like, well, what does it look like for us? It's an assumption of change rather than a pressure. I think for us as a family, we often do hello goodbye as a conversation, and it can be as light-hearted or as deep as you want it to be. And it can be as you look back on the year, again, like you guys, we'll do what were the highs and lows of the year, and it gives us a chance to reflect on it and maybe just name some things, just to give some room to look at it. Because it's the end of the year, so we're saying goodbye to it anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's over anyway. But it's like so as a family, it becomes the four of us kind of just sit down and say, so what's been? And what do you not want to follow you into it? And I think for Chris and I, it's been an important thing for us to model the honesty and the integrity. We talk a lot about mental health in our family. It's just been, there are certain conversations we always wanted out on the table.
Yeah.
And we always wanted to normalize. And so I think hello goodbye has always been that space where the things we want to normalize get a loud voice, whether they're current in our life or not. It's just an ongoing piece. And so I think for me, when I'm thinking of what I'm saying goodbye to, it always with me starts with a ramble. I'm just like talking about it. And then I give pause and say, yeah, but this happened and I'm sorry about that. But I'm hoping, to be honest, it's not that the sorry happens in a bigger way at the end of the year, because honestly, if you've left it 365 days for an apology, there are other issues going on. Do you know, do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There are some other problems that perhaps we want to be thinking about and also need to be saying goodbye to. But so I think it's just an added acknowledgement. I think with the kids, when we're talking about the hellos, it's like, what do you want to try? Are there new adventures? Are there new things? Are there things that you just feel a nudge about that you want to do? And also the goodbye doesn't necessarily mean bad things, and the hello doesn't always mean good things. I mean, there have been years for me where hello was saying hello to grief and actually needing to acknowledge that this stuff happened, like when people have died or whatever. And Christmas is always a real rough time for when you're dealing with grief and loss anyway, particularly the firsts. And so hellos have been, I need to say hello to grief this year. That means I'm going to need to talk to somebody about it. And so the hellos aren't always about I'm going to do better. Yeah. They can actually be the demonstration of that change of mind, that metanoia, that turning from one to the other, saying, look, grief has numbed me this year. This year, the way I need to go to grief is I need to actually process it. Or I've not been in a healthy place. I need to say hello to conflict resolution. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's that peacemaking rather than peacekeeping. It's transformation rather than ignoring. It's not about I like to stay away from toxic positivity where I can. And so I think the hello is, you've just got to open the door to something. You have to welcome it in. So some of it with the kids is, what are we going to welcome in this year? Is it better choices in particular areas of our life? Is it health? Is it creativity? Is it all of those things? So it just becomes this ongoing opening conversation. And I think part of it for us is change. We keep on wanting to come back to the change is possible. You are not defined by your worst mistake. You are not defined, but transformation is possible. There is mercies new every morning.
Come on.
And we get to have a new day. And whilst hello, goodbye over the new year is an easy time to articulate that, we're hoping that that's a conversation through the year anyway.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
Well,
No,
really
it's
good.
really, really good.
Obviously, like, this is the busiest of times for most people. It's Christmas, it's New Year's. And sometimes when I'm thinking about the new year, I feel like if I've not decided I'm going to do something before January the 1st, I've failed. Or say like, oh, I want to change this, or I want to say goodbye to this, but oh, it's the 1st of January, I've missed my chance. How do you create space and time to reflect on these things amongst the busyness?
I mean, first of all, I like to, like, we've done this like through our podcast for a few years now, and it's been interesting watching our community with that, because we've had to keep on saying to people, on one level, January the 1st is just a day. Do you know what I mean? It's just a day. You know, like my brother's in Hong Kong. Chinese New Year's a different time. Do you know what I mean? It's a different time. So I've noticed with teachers that they often do their hello, goodbye in the summer. Because of the rhythm of their years. I have friends who start looking at hello, goodbye at the beginning of December. Others who don't look at it until the end of January. So in some ways, I would encourage people to say, when do you have space? That's the best time to do it.
Right.
Simple.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? When do you have space? You're always going to need to make space, really, to give yourself time for it, but you can create that. Do you know what I mean? January the 1st is not the boss of you. You get to decide it. I mean, there's something beautiful about that time because no one's really working. I mean, you know, that kind of in between Boxing Day and New Year, that can be great, but you don't have to be defined by that. And I often say to people who have kids who are going back to school, don't even think about it until the kids have been in school for a week. Because why? Why do that to yourself? Why? We're not here to make you know what I mean? We're not trying to make our lives harder. And some people need more time. Sometimes, like, I have a friend who goes away for 3 days. She said she needs the time. She has a kind of C-suite job. It's demanding. So she needs to spend a month thinking about it before she even actually begins to write it down.
Yeah.
But that's what works for her. So you do what works for you, really.
Yeah. And I imagine that's that introvert and extrovert sort of thing that's going on there. But also there does need to be some kind of accountability in it, doesn't it? But also the grace and like you were talking about earlier. I think if you're accountable and you're sharing it with people, then they can say, actually, Lizzy, you're being really unkind to yourself. Because sometimes it can be really, really harsh. I mean, how would you, in a healthy way, how would you do that in a family?
I think you make a really good point, because I think there are those of us who can be really taskmastery about this and get really kind of, you know, I'm going to do this, and this. And there have been moments where it's like, how about one thing? Yeah. How about you just say goodbye to one thing? And how about you say hello to one thing and see how that goes, and then maybe add a few later on? Because I think the accountability is both when you're looking at this stuff, it's are they being honest about it? Are they trying too hard? How will they know they've done it? Do you know what I mean? If it's so vague, then it can actually be quite demoralizing, because you're like, well, I think I said hello to having a deeper relationship with God. And I'm like, I'm not quite sure what that means. Some of the deepest times of my walk with God have been really desperate wilderness times, but they don't necessarily feel like I'm going deep with God until afterwards. So if you keep it so vague that you don't know how it's there, you do need external voices to say, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
So I think the questions that with our family we ask, say, what does that look like? So I love what you're saying goodbye to. What does that look like for you? Or to be honest, I'm the one who's likely to have the most things I'm going to say goodbye to this because I get overexcited. And then people will be like, that's great. So can we narrow this down? And I think I like to keep those things lighthearted. Like, accountability can be real without it being bullying. So for those who know me as someone who likes to do too many things, I think people would be like, okay, that's great. Can we as all of those thoughts go through your mind, what's the one that seems like the most important one?
Yeah.
Because then it's saying, actually, there's lots of things going in here, but there's one that one or two. I'll give you 3 because you're an overachiever or whatever, but one really, that's going to be your thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes we've needed to nudge one another, like in a family context. It's like, what does it look like to nudge one another or be nudged, and to bless one another in it and pray for each other as they do their hello, goodbye. And I think also with us in the context of family, when we talk about it, we also say something like, this is what I've seen you tackle this year and I'm really proud of you in. And we do that, like each of us do that, like we'll sit with Chris and say, okay, these are the things that we've seen you do, and this is what I'm really thankful for. So that's also the conversation around the hello, goodbye, when it's in conversation. Saying what you see, what you've seen, and what you've seen them overcome, what you've seen them address, what you're thankful they've tackled. I mean, it can be a real sob fest after a while, but it's important. It's important to name things. There's something so precious about a family seeing each other. And seeing the distinctives, and when do you get to name particularly as our kids get older, when do you get to name the distinct areas of growth and what their fearfully and wonderfully madeness looks like in their life? And to say, that challenge was really tough. I'm really proud of how you navigated it. And because all of those encouragements give people the courage for the hellos and goodbyes of the future. So I think that's the other thing that we do to help. We're accountable for cheerleading as well as challenging.
Yeah. And you can do it within your family, you can do it with your friends, and you can swing, can't you, from one pendulum to the other, depending on your personality and your makeup and your DNA. But because we've been having a really interesting conversation about discipline, because in some ways it's that, should we call it discipline? That would be really challenged. Because actually the Bible talks about discipline and it's a good thing. It's a healthy. Why are we so scared of it? Why are we? But I think because it's been sometimes abused and so we're scared of saying it. But actually a Heavenly Father wants to discipline us, and that's really healthy. And it's about disciplining ourselves in a healthy way. I mean, what would you say about that in sort of goodbyes and hellos?
I think I would say that when there's a word like discipline, it's like it's one of those words that brings a lot with it. Do you know what I mean? Depending on how you were disciplined in your family. For those, like the athletes and stuff, don't have as big a problem with it. Do you know what I mean? Like people who've been training for things, or the musicians who are doing scales or whatever, they tend to not have as big a or at least they see the word in the context. No grit, no glory kind of vibe. It that's part of the journey. But for others, it's like, that's just the weight of expectation. And so if the word becomes a stumbling block, I use the word practice instead, because it's the same thing and it's as painful. I mean, I'm just like, what? But I do think but I like to press in a little with people on that one, in terms of the life that you want will not come cheaply. It will not come easily. If you want to build a family, whether that family is your friendship group, whether that is who you marry, whether that's the kids you raise, or whether you want to build a career, whatever you're trying to build will not happen without sacrifice, without consistency, without commitment. It just is what it is. I think we just have to be honest about that. We have to be honest about the habits that we build and say, frankly, you're already building them. You're already being discipled by something. Just make sure it's what you want it to be. I think sometimes people are like, I don't want the pressure of these habits. Oh, honey, you've already got habits. You've already got habits. You've already doing it. What we're saying is, do you know which ones you're doing? And do you know where they go? It just might be your discipline as a discipline of Netflix. I'm not shading that. I'm a big fan of TV. I'm a huge fan of television. I was like, I might not want to read some more books next year, but I'm a huge fan of it. But just know what you're doing. And so that's probably the conversation I like to have with people. It's like, oh, honey, you already have disciplines. It's just called Instagram. It's just called TikTok. It's just called, it's just called gossip. It's just called shopping or whatever. All I'm asking you to do and inviting you to do is to think through, what are the disciplines you want and what are the outcomes you want, and do they match? Because then it takes away some of it normalizes some of this stuff. And I do think it's important to normalize it. But again, with the hellos and goodbyes, part of the reason why it began when me and my sis used to talk about it, or when I've chatted about it with friends, is because we wanted our lives to change. We wanted growth. We wanted transformation. We wanted to get married, have kids, build a career. We wanted to get past the past. We didn't want that same old person who we've struggled to forgive to be there again in our lives in the following year. We wanted to heal. We wanted to not feel that the only answer to that pain was alcohol. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever the thing was. That's why it began. It wasn't entertainment. It wasn't a cutesy thing to do. It was, if I don't change, this is going to be a problem. Do you know what I mean? If this doesn't change, this is going to be a problem. And I'll wake up 10 years from now wondering how I got here. year. And actually, it was because I took the path of least resistance for a decade. So I think, I guess for me, it's like I like to be lighthearted about it, but I'm very serious about what I want the outcomes to be. I don't want to take myself too seriously in it, but I am committed to a life of transformation.
Would you unpack it for us a little bit? Because you talked a bit about wilderness when it feels like God's not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked about, well, discipline or practice, whatever word we might choose. How do you balance all of that with like God's grace, God's goodness? How do we balance our effort in becoming better people with God's grace and goodness? And He saved us, and we're accepted as we are, and all of that. How do you balance those two things, especially perhaps in those times when it looks and feels like God's just nowhere, not doing anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm one of the things that a line that Dallas Willard used to say, which really helped me, is that grace isn't opposed to effort; it's opposed to earning. And I just thought that, and it's a helpful distinction for me on when am I trying to earn God's favor. And and honestly, real talk, I can't always tell. I can't always tell. And I've come to accept that about myself, that I can't always tell. And I'm like, God, you're just gonna have to let me know. I'm just doing what I can here. So I think that's been part of it. I think sometimes it's a bit of a rhythm. I think for me, the effort is, you got to know what you're doing it for. So part of the hello and goodbye is not to earn transformation, it's to make room for it. Like it's to make room for
That's
God.
good. Yeah.
And
somebody write that down. That's good.
You're so funny. And it's to acknowledge things. So there have been hellos where it's like, okay, you've got some stuff to deal with. You need to go to a therapist. And you need to get some help or whatever. You need to talk to somebody. It's like, say hello again kind of thing, to those sorts of things. Now, I'm not achieving anything there, and it certainly doesn't feel like a win. But it is acknowledging that I am at the end of myself and I have done all that I know how to do. And I'm like, God, here's the next thing. Meet me here. So a lot of the hello goodbyes it's the surrendering something back to him, like the successes, and saying that was wonderful. I'm thanking you for what you've done, and I thank you for how far you've brought me. But I need mercies new every day, and it's a surrender to the things that are impossible as well. And I think there are those of us who just naturally default to legalism, and there are others who naturally, and I think we're always kind of swinging on that pendulum. And so for me, the way that I help myself with that is I often use the end of Psalm 139, where it's like, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me and lead me in the way everlasting. Because that's my way of saying, God, this is my best effort here. I don't know. I can't always tell whether I'm trying to prove myself to you. I can't always, even now. And I know I've got lots of these thoughts, and some of them I'm not taking seriously, and some of them I'm just holding on to. But I'm inviting you, even in the effort, to show me what needs to be sieved out. I'm inviting you by your power, because I don't know how to stop being legalistic. So all I can do is avail myself to grace. Do you know what I mean? All I can do. And there are ways the Lord interrupts me. Like, for example, I'm terrible at fasting. Terrible. I used to be awesome, actually. I'm just going to say it. I was awesome at it.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
But I'm rubbish at it now. And I actually do think it's the Lord. I think no matter how far I go, there's always a point where it's like, yeah, I'm done. Because, and it's actually helpful for me. It's actually humbling for me, because it reminds me that I can't make stuff happen. I am partnering with Jesus. That all of these things are me. I mean, that's the whole invitation, isn't it? To join him in what he's doing in the renewal of all things, whether that's you, your family, or beyond. And so there's always a point where I'm like, oh, I've run my best race. And I'm like, I'm not at the end of it though. So I'm gonna need you to pick me up. And so I think I would encourage those of us who are like, how do I get the balance? To just not, I would acknowledge what you're like, acknowledge whether you are the legalist type or whether you're the licensed type, and just invite God into that part of it too. Like, invite him in as close as breathing on all of this stuff, as intimate as breathing. Because even the building of your hellos and goodbyes are not just you saying, God, here's what I'm going to say hello to for you. Or here's what I'm going to say. It's like, God, is there anything you'd like me to say hello to? Is there anything you'd like me to say goodbye to? And I think probably that's the difference on it with resolutions to me. Now, don't get me wrong. I like to have my resolutions anyway. I don't know what they are. I don't know if I remember them. I don't care. But it's just it's just what I'm like. But on this stuff, I'm asked, it's part of my invitation and my walk with God to say, where are you and how do I join you there?
Yeah. And it's that partner, like you said, that key word is that partnering and asking the Holy Spirit to come and I mean, I love it. It's a beautiful time, isn't it? To stop because we're so busy, just to reflect, review, and that's really healthy. We need to review. We need to reflect. We need to look at the last year, and then we need to look forward.
Totally, because I think, when we think of the disasters that we know of and the disasters that have happened, they were very rarely one-off, like sudden things. They were incremental things, or things that were left neglected for long periods of time, or things that were ignored and they just got further and further away. So these moments help us. They help us bring it in. They help us observe, like it's what Socrates, I think you said, the unexamined life is not worth living, which I think is a little bit dramatic, but I get the point. Do you know what I mean? I get the point in terms of we don't necessarily need to overanalyze our lives and every bit, but we do need to examine things. We need to check whether the stories we're telling ourselves are true.
Yes.
Whether the stories that other people are saying to us are true. Because you can't change what you won't name. You can't heal what you won't name. And so some of it is the power of naming something and naming it before the Lord is almost the kickstarter to the journey.
Love it.
That's so good.
It is really good.
And in this time, in New Year's, everyone's kind of like, oh, this year I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to change this amazing thing and be this person and, all this. How is Christian hope different from New Year's optimism? And why is that difference important for Christian families?
I think that's huge, actually. I'm reading a friend of mine's book, Rich Volodas. It's his Advent book, and he writes about how Jesus enters the world and saying how ridiculous in many ways it is that he enters as a baby. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're dealing with empires and transformation and all these things that have got to change, and he comes as a baby, and that babies can cry, poop, sleep. They really can't do much else. But how this vulnerable, tiny thing is the thing that's going to change the world. And I think it reminds me in these moments that actually the change that we're looking for is often a little kind of day of small beginnings, tiny, vulnerable thing, rather than the declaration of the big things we're going to do for God. I think optimism is a hope for the best based on anything. Do you know what I mean? Whether it could be based on willpower, it can be based on your privilege. I'm not even saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're based on anything. I think the difference for Christian hope is it's what you're hoping in. It's who you're hoping in. And sometimes I think even us as believers, we hope in our own expectations. But actually, like I was reading Lamentations, which is one of my faves, but I find it really ironic in Lamentations that it's like, it's like this moment where he's really miserable. In chapter 3, he's really miserable. And he goes, I'm remembering my suffering. I'm remembering the loneliness. And this I call to mind. And because of God's great love, I'm not consumed. And he dares to hope because of God's faithfulness. So I think the difference for us is our hope is not based on you can do it and you're strong or you've got these gifts or those are all wonderful, like secondary things, which may or may not be awesome. And our hope is based on the fact that we follow a God who is faithful, and that even when we don't have certainty, we have assurance. Even when we don't have predictability, we have his faithfulness. That he is faithful and he is true. And therefore, and because we're partnered with him, because we're in him, because we're united with him, we don't know what the circumstances will hold. Do you know what I mean? I think of my hello goodbyes of my 20s and think a lot of it was, so that didn't happen, so that didn't happen, so that didn't work, so that changed. And then my 30s, so that happened, and that was worse, and that was but you keep coming back to it because he is the one who carries you regardless of it all. And so I always want to encourage us to say, I don't say this to shade optimism. I just say this as a Gen Xer who is always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Do you know what I mean? And I have too many scars and too many wounds and too much cynicism and too much jadedness to be optimistic by myself. Do you know? Do you know what I mean? And I've seen too much. We've all seen too much. And sadly, I say that as a Gen Xer, but there are Gen Alphas who've seen too much. There are kids who've seen too much. Who have lost parents, who have encountered all kinds of things. I think of like refugee kids and things, seen too much, didn't get a childhood, seen too much. And so if I'm looking for optimism, it becomes based in the money I have, the connections I have, and all of those things can go in a nanosecond. But what we have in Christian hope is that our hope is in who Jesus is and his faithfulness to us. And that could lead us in all kinds of directions. And it doesn't guarantee ease as much as I would love it to. And it doesn't guarantee pretty as much as I would love it to. And it doesn't guarantee things going my way as much as I would love it to. But what it does guarantee is that I'm never alone. I will never be left or forsaken. and he will always lead me through. And that's the peace. That's what our hope is. And because hope is about expectation. Hope is expectations. So where we put our expectations really matter. Do you know, do you know what I mean? They really, I think so many relationships, so many family relationships are crushed by expectations. Like you were supposed to do this. You were meant to be this. It was meant to be like this. Our marriage was meant to be like this. Or God was supposed to do this. He was meant to provide this. That job was not meant to leave us. The house was meant to be perfect. Do you know what I mean? And they're all hopes, because hope is expectation. And the shift that we're making as believers is saying all of that. We're not saying those things are terrible to hope for. They're not terrible to hope for. They're just not lasting because they don't have the power to deliver. What we're saying is that we're placing our hope in a relationship that has the power, and in a person who has the power to deliver. Now, that deliverance might not always be the way we want, but he's shown himself to be true. And he's shown himself through his birth, through his life, through his death, through his resurrection, that he means what he says, and that his commitment to us is unparalleled. And so therefore it is a better option, a safer option, a wiser option to place your hope in.
Yeah. And I mean, what would you say to, so good, what would you say to someone like, some years you have horrific, like you've just touched a bit on it just now, but like you have a horrific year, not like, we all have stuff that's not great. Life's unfair. It's been really hard, but like it's one of those years that, maybe you've lost a child or something horrific like that. And it's the new year. What wisdom, what would you say to someone or a family who was approaching goodbyes and hellos in that time of grief? How would you say for them to approach it?
I mean, I think it's agonizing, isn't it? I think of I remember there was one year, 2008 was a terrible year, 2014. I remember 2014 at the end of the year, watching, all the family were asleep and we were on vacation. And I remember waiting until midnight for one reason. I wanted to make sure the year had gone. I just like, I remember standing, looking out the window saying, just get out. Just get out. I'm done with you. I don't have any energy for you to be better yet. I'm not saying hello to anything. I just want you gone. Get out. kind of thing. And then like at 12:01, God's like, you good? I'm like, I'm going to bed now. Okay. I just needed to make sure it was done. In my time zone, as it were. I mean, I think in the middle of all of those things, when you've had those years, I don't know that I remember with 2008, 2009, it's almost like every fiber of my being was so caught in grief. I don't know that I knew what hello was. I don't know what and you certainly don't want to say goodbye to people you love. And you've already, because it's already been forced upon you. Like you've had these forced goodbyes. And so I think probably saying hello to grief was the only way I could do it.
Yes.
The only way I had to, because in some ways, my argument with God was, well, I'm saying goodbye, not by choice here. I'm saying goodbye because I was given no other option. So thanks for that. And I think all we can do is be as raw, and sometimes that rawness is numbness, and sometimes that raw is anger, and sometimes that raw is sorrow, and sometimes that raw is memories, both the positive ones and the ones that are haunting. I think in those moments, I just know that God carries us in it all. And I don't know that there are any nice prayers to pray or anything. I mean, I love the fact that the Psalms have so much lament in them because we need that.
Yeah.
So I would say to the people in that space, in as best you can, put yourself around good people who aren't full of platitudes. Do you know what I mean? And do not feel apologetic about the ones who are nice but are useless in this time. I know they're God's people. I know they're good people. You know what I'm saying?
That's why I call you, Jo. Yeah.
And that's why we have you, Jo, as a friend on tap.
Because of my sincere tact and in all time, but honest, but on a level, I think that is why we've been friends these 30 years, because we are, and why the Atlantic doesn't define it, because actually when you have your people, you need them. You hold them and you let them hold you. So you have to have people around you who can hold you.
Yeah.
And that might be the only hello you need to be thinking of. I don't know in those moments agree. Like, do you know what I mean? If you can just say hello to each day, that may be enough. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I showered today, win. I ate today, win. That may well be enough. But what I would say is, for those people who watch people going through those things, I actually think it's probably your job to carry them more than it is theirs to think of what to do.
Yeah.
and to think of what it means and I would say be as specific as possible. So that means they may not be able to answer what you can do for them. So you might have to watch their life for a week and turn up with gift cards and a meal. Do you know what I mean? Or let's take a walk. Or I think that's where the whole idea of hello, goodbye, not just being an individual process, but also a communal one comes into its own. And again, we know that those losses can be the bereavement in someone's passing. It can be a broken engagement or a relationship. It can be the end of a job. It can be being made redundant. Do you know what I mean? Like losses manifest themselves in different ways. I think for those of us who are in it, though, it's okay to be numb and wait until things thaw before you know what your next step is.
That's great.
Okay, what one thing would you suggest to help encourage people to start the new year with hope in their lives as parents and families, and also young adults? Because I'm going to be sending this to a lot of my friends who don't have that.
I often, and one of the things we get to do with people when I do hello goodbyes, get them to do a timeline of the year that's gone by and to look at the significant moments. And to look at some of the things you did well, the things that went well, because again, if you're going to have hope, if you're going to have hope even in the Lord for the coming year, and you don't know what you're working with, it's real hard. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's the God who carried me through 2008 that made me able to stand at 2014. It's the God who carried me through 2014 that got me ready for the other ones. Do you know what I mean? So I would encourage them first to do a timeline of, okay, yes, some of the heartaches, but also some of the good things that happened, things that you're pleased with, things that you're proud of, things that went well. You might need to look at your Instagram feed or your TikTok feed to work out what happened in the year because it's a long time, or your whatever it is, but I would say that's one thing. And then pull out of that some of the maybe 2 or 3 things which are like, that was awesome, or I'm really grateful for that, I'm really thankful for that, because I think that helps you with your next step. And it may not have been in like when there's an unanswered prayer, because a lot of the hello goodbye things for people can come down to the answered prayer and the unanswered prayer, or the not answered in the way you were looking for prayer kind of thing. I think sometimes we build and develop our faith and our confidence and our courage and our hope on the things that did happen. Like the God who provided me that job is the God who's overseeing me on the dating scene. The God who provided me that relationship is the God who's going to help me as we navigate complexity in it. The God who carried me through that miscarriage is the God who's helping me navigate this as I contemplate whether we try again. Do you know what I mean? But we won't do that if we don't have a moment to check in on some of the things. And again, that doesn't have to just be an isolated individual one. You might want to do that with people, because we forget. We forget what God's done. You see it in the Bible again and again. Remember this, write it down, all these kinds of things, because human beings are human. And so I would say to your young adult posse, to families, everybody, and again, this is something that we did up with our kids from a young age. Like, what's the thing that you're really glad happened? Now they might remember the previous week. It doesn't matter. They might be like, my birthday was awesome. I'm like, yes, it was. Cost an arm and a leg, so it better be awesome, or something, or their sport, or whatever. But it cultivates the whole idea of gratitude, which is good for us spiritually. It's actually good for us mentally. It's really good for your mental health as well. So that would be the starting point, because I think that's just a good foundation for the hope and for the stepping forward. So I would say do a timeline, look at the things of the year and pull out some things that you're grateful for. I mean, the thing is, look, the terrible stuff you'll know. You don't need a timeline for those ones. They're all there. But honestly, here's the thing that the timeline often does for me. It makes me think, man, I was carrying more than I realized. I was dealing with more than I realized. God, thank you for getting me through it. Do you know what I mean? Or I might need to be kinder to myself this year because that sucked. Or it helps me think, oh my goodness, look what God's done. Look at that provision. And that was a lot of fun. And then you realize that was fun in April. And then there was no fun till December. You're like, might shift that one. So in some ways, those things inform us, but they help us. Because again, you're in partnership with the Lord. It helps you bring it back to God and say, okay, this is what I can see of this year. Where do we go now?
Yeah.
It's so good. And those resources that you've developed, Jo, where can you get them from? Because I've used them and they're amazing. I've used them for myself individually, but I've also used them in group formats, in connect groups. Where can people get those resources from?
They are at leadstoriesmedia.com. I'll give you a link for you to put in your show notes.
Are you unpacking it too on a podcast? You're unpacking it on your podcast.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so there's on Lead Stories podcast, and we kind of unpack the whole idea behind it, and we unpack what the goodbyes look like, and we unpack what the hellos look like, because your goodbyes require you to review and to look back and actually let go. And your hellos begin to, like, it reminds you that your hellos are not just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, but is there a word the Lord's given you? Is there a verse that makes sense? Is there nothing? Nothing is still something, by the way. It's still important. So it just gives you a chance to go through it piecemeal.
And it's a great podcast. And that podcast, say it again.
Lead Stories podcast.
It's a brilliant podcast. And
Why,
books.
thank you.
Books. You have it in your books too. You've written many books. They're all brilliant, everybody.
You're very kind. You're very, very kind.
But
So let's work backwards. So Ready to Rise is about kind of stepping into purpose and leadership. Then the Dream of You. I might have mentioned Hello, Goodbye and Dream of You because that's about identity.
I think it was in that one.
And it's about letting go of the different pieces of your identity to discover who God wants you to be. Then there's one, well, in the US, it's called More Than Enchanting. In the UK and Australia, it's called Influential. That's a bit more about women in leadership. And then I think the others are out of print, so I don't know we need to mention those.
They're brilliant. They're all great.
Yeah. And thanks for all the wisdom that you shared with us
so
today,
good.
Jo. And
thank you, friends.
Those who've been listening or watching, we hope that's been really encouraging for you to think about how to make a fresh start filled with hope in the new year and not just with optimism. Really interesting to think about the difference between those two things. Of course, if you found this helpful, we say this every time, we'd love for you to like and share, subscribe, comment, all those things. We'd love to encourage more people in what it means to build their family lives around Jesus and his teaching. So with all of that, God bless you. Happy New Year and see you very soon. Thanks, Jo. Lots of love.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Woo! Woohoo!